Being an entrepreneur can mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but for me, it's about the vision and the journey. It's about climbing that summit, and maybe I'm not all the way to the top, but I look down and I say, wow, I've come a long way, and that keeps me motivated. Like in my mind, I believe there's a business for everybody, and it might mean a gateway business or a side hustle type business before you launch into maybe we build that up and then it gives you the confidence to get into a franchise.
We make sure that all of our franchisees are trained and have a lot of support. And you mentioned, Beau, the large territories. And we work very closely in a collaborative nature. And that's the kind of the culture that we've set, helping each other. And our franchisees, which is another benefit that we didn't mention, of being part of a franchise system. Not only do you get the support of a franchisor, but if it's a good franchise system, you should have the support of your fellow franchisee.
Why do you think franchises right now are growing the way they are? And why is so much private equity coming into the space as well? Right. Really, it's I've always just gone after it, and I just get, keep on learning, keep on going. And I think that consistency part is the big thing with everybody. I think a lot of us out there have the idea of owning a business, but when you start looking at it, it feels overwhelming. You don't know what type of business makes the most sense, and then you get stuck in your kind of day-to-day. Today is another business ownership summit. We've been running these now quarterly. I think this is the 5th or 6th. I don't remember at this point, but we're going to continue to do these quarterly and continue to go for our mission of, we're trying to touch 1 million people. So the more we do of these, the more people we get in front of. We've got some great topics today. We're going to dive into SBA a lot today. We're going to talk about some wealth building tools with SBA, how you can buy your building, a kind of a roadmap of how to scale up using SBA, because some of us out there might not have several $100,000 to buy a business cash. So we got to figure out how can we do this with other people's money? And the SBA program is a fantastic program, partially guaranteed by the federal government. We'll dive into that. We're going to dive into some business models. And then up first, we have David Grossman. David is the president and CEO of Renue Systems, a specialized commercial deep cleaning franchise serving the hospitality industry. Under his leadership, Renue Systems has expanded its franchise network internationally. And I really met David in person at a franchise event recently, about maybe a couple months ago. But what really struck me about David is he's, he tells you how it is. There's a lot of people in the franchise world that are unrealistic and telling you, hey, you can be semi-absentee, you can do this and that. And David's got a very impressive background as well. So I wanted him to come up and not only speak about his franchise model, which is a great franchise model. I think it is going to be good for you guys to hear about, but he has a lot of insight on, why a franchise and why business ownership, and, his background in private equity and investment banking and things like that is very impressive. And then how he ended up in the franchising space all right. So David, if you don't mind just kind of giving a kind of a high level vantage point of how you found the franchise industry, and then we'll dive into kind of why this franchising might be a viable option to step people into business ownership. And the hardest part about business ownership is systems, processes, and so forth, and the marketing. And so I'd love to get your perspective on all this and more.
Absolutely. I could talk for hours about franchising, and similar to you, just very passionate about growing a business. And I was in corporate America. I went to school, went to graduate school, and went into consulting. I worked at a big fancy consulting firm, and then moved over to finance and worked at some investment banking and investments and private equity. And I was reasonably happy doing that, but a couple things interfere with the happiness. Was laid off, not once, not twice, but 3 times. I guess 3 times, and 3 strikes and you're out was what I learned. And it was just very challenging because just corporate America, at least the Wall Street competitiveness, just was difficult to have a career. And I thought maybe I should look around doing something else. And in college, I ran a small business and just had a lot of fun doing that. And that was always in the back of my mind, that if I could find something that I could have for get involved with, where a lot of my success would be based on my ability to execute. And I have a lot of confidence in myself. Don't have an ego, but I have a lot of confidence in myself that if I find the right opportunity where a lot of the variables to success again are in my control, then I thought that good chance I could succeed. And that's ultimately what I did. I started looking for a business, and I knew nothing about franchising, but just cast a wide net and ended up coming across this company, which is now called Renue, where I ended up purchasing the business at the very beginning of 2010. And since then, have just been head down operating that. And we're a very specialized operator and primarily franchisor of specialized cleaning services to high-end hotels. And that was not anything I knew about. Didn't know anything about franchising either, but it was type of thing that was a business that had some nice systems, and to me just needed a bit more energy. It was something that we could learn fairly quickly. And I will say also that this is a very similar story to a lot of our franchisees. They're looking for a business. Some are looking for an independent business, not affiliated with a franchise system, and end up gravitating to franchise for a number of reasons that they think makes a lot more sense for them. And I'm certainly happy to talk about that.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah. So, I think let's just unpack real quick, like somebody who is in corporate right now, and they're looking for a business. Let's kind of dive into like the nuts and bolts of why a franchise might make sense for them, to get into, and also, from the fact the startup costs are could be, depending on the business model, relatively inexpensive versus paying a multiple for an existing
Sure.
business. And then let's talk about, and then after we dive into that a little bit, I think diving into your business model, because I think your business model has a lot of uniqueness about it because of your large territories and the niche you're in, and then relationships with these, different hotel concepts out there, where you have kind of an in to doing services for all these major brands like Marriott and so forth.
Sure. Yes, I think that a lot of people, and I talk to a lot of people that are considering a franchise. Some move forward, some don't. But I think a franchise, when someone's looking for a business, they may not always know. Every once in a while, someone is exactly what they want. That's fine. But a lot of people are just trying to figure out what they want. Don't really know. Hey, is it a restaurant? That's great. Or is it a store, or is it a service? Very different types of businesses, which require very different types of skills, and it's also how you're going to spend your days very differently. So there's a lot of different out there, and I'm not saying one is right or wrong, but people don't always think about a franchise. Um, and but there are not even hundreds, there are thousands of different franchise brands, so almost something that will appeal to you. We can talk about how to find a franchise business, but there are just a wide range of options out there. And it's somewhat, particularly if you're coming from corporate America, a lot of people are nervous about going out on their own. A franchise fills that gap because you're working, it's your own business, you're a lot more entrepreneurial, and a lot of the success is going to be based on your ability to execute. But at the same time, you're not there doing it by yourself. If you're aligned with a good franchise system, you will not only learn how to get into business quickly, but you'll benefit from their many, many years of trial and error, perfecting the concept and all the ways of operating the business. So it's a nice way of bridging the gap of, whoa, I'm used to working in a big fancy office with all these support staff, versus, hey, day one, what do I do? I'm out on my own. I don't know, in my case, how to clean. I have to go start researching all the different equipment, the chemicals, the processes. So yes, there's a startup cost to buy a franchise, and that's very transparent, that's filed every year by a franchise system. But you have a good sense of you'll have a very good idea of what it's going to cost you. It may sound more than you could do it on your own, but trust me, if you were to learn any franchise system, whether it's mine or some other one, it will take you not only months, but probably years to start to research how to clean carpet or how to restore marble. It'll take you a very long time to do that, and the trial and error will cost you a lot of money to do all that. And time is money, as they say. So many people realize, hey, why don't I get a franchise or think about a franchise? There's a cost, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a lot less cost in time and in money than doing it on my own. And one other comment I'll make is that research has shown that if you're aligned with a good franchise system, not only we get up in business very quickly, but your odds of success are much higher. And at the end of the day, when you go to sell, whether that's 5 years, 20 years, whatever it may be, you'll get a higher price than if it were a similar standalone business.
Very good. I like that. Let's before we unpack your business model a little bit more, let's dive into unrealistic expectations. You're talking to, I think this is a big thing we need to address in business ownership. A lot of people hear the word semi-absentee. And is it possible to be semi-absentee? I believe yes, but I believe not in the beginning. And that's the difference. Some people say, hey, you could be, not present, you can hire the manager. But when you talk about the realistic expectations of franchising in general, that really in the beginning, that's where you're putting the most work in typically, because you have to set up the systems. Well, you're right. You're implementing the systems essentially. You're learning the business model, and then you're putting the right people in place. And then maybe 12, 24 months down the road, you can be a little bit more working on the business, in the business. But over all the years, all these people, all the candidates you speak to, I would probably say that's probably an unrealistic expectation for many people.
Yeah, I think that's right. It sounds great. Hey, why don't I keep my job or working part-time, make some income that'll help defray while my business is just starting and ramping up. And that sounds great. And occasionally that can work. But at the end of the day, and in my experiences and experience of other franchise systems that I know well, they the business does not get off the ground nearly as quickly. And at the end of the day, it just scales a lot slower, and you're going to burn through a lot more cash that way than if you were just to dive in and run it. And it's not just money, but it's also to your point, Beau, it's also just you're more likely going to succeed because you're involved. And not to say you can't have a manager be involved as well, but you're involved and you've gone through training. You're learned you've learned how a business should be run, and you're going to make sure that, or you're going to do your best to make sure that the business succeeds. So, as opposed to giving it to someone who's just going to manage and has much less vested. So, I won't say, and you probably agree, it will never work out to be semi-absentee. But the more you're involved at the beginning, the faster you will ramp up, and the more likely you will to succeed, even if you're giving up a paycheck to do it. I think you just have to budget for that, or find a franchise that either we talked about SBA. I know you're going to talk about SBA loan. Either take out a bigger SBA loan, or find a franchise system that will be less costly to start off with. But somehow, I'm full agreement that very unlikely that you will do as well being semi-absentee than if you just go all in on day one.
Yeah, and over time, and I don't want to dishearten anybody, over time, is it possible to be an operator and own multiple franchises, even different concepts? So there's people that own, 40, 50 different. So it's possible. But if you're coming from corporate and you've never run a business, so we started a cohort, launched a cohort where we're doing group coaching to set realistic expectations. And we're creating what we call a transition plan to get people realistic. Look, you're making X amount on your W-2. maybe there's a franchise that, you know, you could start training and go and start ramping up, knowing that you're going to be investing a lot of extra effort for 12 months, and then making sure we have enough in reserves, right? So we have like a reserve account, so people feel more confident in themselves. Because a lot of the reason, there's a lot of fear about leaving the golden handcuffs of the paycheck. So that's why we created this transition plan to help people vision when they can make, and sometimes it might mean, like in my mind, I believe there's a business for everybody, and it might mean a gateway business or a side hustle type business before you launch into a, maybe we build that up and then it gives you the confidence to get into a franchise. The beautiful thing, and we're going to talk about it later today, is that you can finance 80 to 90% of all the startup costs, including working capital. So I always tell the borrowers I work with in SBA, let's make sure we can pad enough working capital. Even though the FDD might say 3 months of working capital, usually we can build in 6 to 8 months of working capital. That gives you enough ramp up time typically with different brands. Now, you're going to learn a lot as you go through the process of looking at franchises. You're going to go through what's called a franchise disclosure document, and you're going to really understand and evaluate different concepts. Like I never say, hey, you know, just look at one brand. You should really compare at least 2 or 3, and then make a decision on which franchise model makes the most sense. Now, going into Renue, and why I personally like this business model, and I see some huge differences. One is they've got a niche in a huge market cap. They're specialized. They have good relationships with the big hotels of the world to get inside and get the business. And then the other thing is it's a no brick and mortar location type business model, which means lower overhead. So let's unpack your business model. And I think whether you guys are interested in this type of B2B type of business, it'll be good for everybody out there to unpack like business models in general, because that's what we want you to do. We want you to learn about a lot of business models. And we're going to dive into, you know, this business model and who might it be right for, and some of the competitive advantages. Like sometimes if you look at some of these franchises, they give you a very small population count, right? Or business count. And so they're putting competition all around the place around you, where this franchise model, you have huge territories, which is good because you have room to grow and you're not, you know, one on top of the other. So that was one thing I really noticed about your business model that I liked. I'm like, yeah, this is a smart business for just that fact alone. Then you dive into all the other things. So let's just unpack like a high level overview of the business model and let people start hearing about businesses, right? That's why they're here.
Sure. Happy to do it. And we started out, this predated me, but we started out in 1991 as a general cleaning company. Our founder taught himself how to clean carpets for homes, restaurants, frankly, whoever would pay to do the work, and just saw how competitive it was to being a general cleaning company. There are hundreds in your neighborhood that you could easily find to come clean your home or your office or your restaurant. So he decided to specialize. Around that time, picked up a new customer, a small hotel. And so ever since then, we've gone down that path of being highly focused. We're not restricted to only doing cleaning hotels, but we've gotten very good at it. And we've built up some barriers to competitors, some very good reputation of what we do. And importantly, the whole focus of our business is on the needs of our customers. In our case, the hotels are very different than cleaning an office building or cleaning a home or cleaning a restaurant. They require certain processes because we're dealing in a 24/7 environment where, as an example, we're always coming across guests who pay a lot of money, by the way, to go to the hotels. So they require high quality cleaning. They require our technicians to not only know how to do work, but know how it is to be very respectful of other people. And then just all of our equipment are designed. We don't have, as example, long hoses that run through the hotel. We have very portable units. Our processes get us in and out quickly. There's a lot of specialization, and as a result, we've gotten good at what we do and developed a nice relationships with a lot of the big hotel brands, not only locally but nationally and internationally. We're preferred vendor with almost all the big brands out there. So we do a lot of work for the 3-star, 4-star, 5-star big brands hotel, in our case, like Marriott and Hyatt and Hilton and Intercontinental and a number of others. We work with them. And so we've developed some nice relationships and a really good reputation. That said, we're very keenly focused on making sure that we do a good job. It takes a long time, many years to build a good reputation, uh, much shorter time, unfortunately, to ruin it. So we make sure that all of our franchisees are trained and have a lot of support. And you mentioned both the large territories. We do give big territories. In our case, it's typically one franchisee per city. And so you may ask, oh, why wouldn't you give out 8 or 10 per city and make more money at the beginning because you could sell more territories? And that's true. And we've thought long and hard about it, but we've decided that we would like to give big territories for two primary reasons. One, the obvious one, and you mentioned this, Beau, is it allows our franchisees to build big businesses. Even our franchisees, and including our company-owned location in Chicago, where we're based, is been around for many years and is fairly sizable. We haven't tapped out. We still have room to grow, and we do grow each year. So there's always more customers to be had and or more services to provide our current customers. But the other reason, which may be less obvious, is that we have a fairly small number of franchisees. In our case, we just are starting our 32nd. We cover most of the U.S. and as Beau mentioned, we started expanding internationally, so we're in 6 countries. So we have 32. Even when we're quote sold out, we're still going to have a fairly modest number, very manageable number. So it means that my team and I are very responsive to our franchisees. We know them all, they know us, and everyone knows that they can call even myself and anyone on my team, and if not get us on the phone right then, they'll get a call back within a couple of hours. So being very responsive to our franchisees, giving individualized attention. I think we've done a pretty good job of that, and that's important for us as we continue to grow. And that goes back to what we talked about earlier in the conversation about helping our franchisees. So they're not a standalone independent business where they're not going to get support. They get a lot of support, in our case, from us on every aspect, whether it's operations, uh, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, whether it's business building, scaling, pretty much anything we will help them with responsibly and individually.
Awesome. Let's getting started in your business model. Obviously, there's a lot of due diligence you do as a candidate to learn about a franchise. It's not like, hey, I'm going to have one call with David and I'm going to sign up. You're going to talk to owners. It's multiple steps. It takes multiple weeks, if not 2 or 3 months. Once you open a location, what does it look like? Do I have to manage like 20 technicians? Do I need brick and mortar location? Do I operate out of the van? Paint the picture of why this
Sure.
business model is attractive. And even like my hands are soft, David. Like I don't know how to clean. I don't know how to steam clean. I don't want to be the guy in the truck. Who are you looking for?
Yeah, the first answer or part of that answer is that uh, we have people with almost every background. Very few know anything about cleaning. Very few know anything about hotels or even franchising, and that's fine. We find if we think people have the right skill set and importantly, mindset that fits with our culture, there's a good chance we can not only teach them how to do the business, but support them throughout the entire time with us. So in our case, we're looking for people that can manage two skills. One, manage a small team of technicians, and if you don't have any technicians in mind, that's fine. We help our franchisees find them, and they'll get trained along with our franchisee. Start out with as few as 1 or 2, and scalable. Many people, when they think about cleaning, they think, "Oh, I need a lot of workers. They're not paid real well, so I've got to spend a lot of time on HR issues," and that's generally true. Our business model turns that sideways. Is that we can operate successfully with a small team. I mentioned start out with one, could be 2, could be 1 technician. They'll get trained. As the business grows, you bring on more people and be able to train them. Our biggest only have about 12 to 14 workers and several vans on that. And because it's very specialized work, we can make the numbers work, in that we pay our workers and encourage our franchisees to pay their workers above the going wage, get higher quality, and the profit margins support that type of work. So it means that we can operate with fairly small teams, don't have to focus all our time on HR issues. Our franchisees can then step back after a few months of getting their hands dirty and learning the business, the nuts and bolts of it, and focus more and more on what's the other skill is, sales. And it's really relationship based sales, because in our case, we open up the doors, we set up meetings for our franchisees, we create a lot of awareness. I go out when our franchisee starts after the 9 days of initial training, which usually happens in Chicago. But I'll go out and we'll spend some time together with our franchisee. We'll go meet the potential customers, the hotels, till they feel comfortable going and doing that on their own. But my team opens up a lot of doors for them. So that's from a skill set perspective, just being able to manage a small team. But we don't want you in the day. Beau, you mentioned you don't want to get your hands too dirty, and we don't want that either. We want you the first few months, but after that, if in year two our franchisees out there in the field doing the work or with their crew the whole time, then that's an issue. They should be know how to do the work, oversee them, spot check, but spend most of their time interacting with hotel managers. Again, with our support and helping create those relationships. But from a personality perspective, we're just looking for people that fit with our culture. We're servant-minded leadership. We're very responsive to our franchisees, should be responsive, customer service oriented to the hotels. It's not a 24/7 business, but just the simple things in business that surprisingly a lot of people don't do. When a customer wants you, you come out with a day or two or get back to them. You don't ignore their phone calls, which a lot of people do, which is surprising. But it's just we're looking for people that just do common courteous. We're very transparent with our not only our customers, with our franchisees, and we work very closely in a collaborative nature. And that's the kind of the culture that we've set, helping each other and our franchisees, which is another benefit that we didn't mention of being part of a franchise system. Not only do you get the support of a franchisor, but if it's a good franchise system, you should have the support of your fellow franchisee. And in our case, we do a lot to try to create this culture of camaraderie and partnership, because our franchisees realize if one of them succeeds, it only raises the value of the brand Renue and helps everybody. So they're very collaborative with one another, and that's another nice support network.
So let's unpack a little bit. Like, what does it look like? So
Yeah.
once you guys get more down the road looking at a franchise, they're gonna the franchisor will email you a copy of the FDD and have you sign it. It's just requirements, right? And then you're gonna get this 300-page document. I want to break down like an item 7, just for an example. When we get into your business model, can you talk about your investment range and kind of just let people know what an item 7 is in a franchise
Sure.
disclosure document in general?
Yeah, that shows you the upfront cost, and it's very detailed. Everyone's required, every franchise system is required to file every year a document with the state, who then approves it and says that, hey, you're now allowed to sell a franchise or discuss selling a franchise in that state. And Beau mentioned an item 7. There's an item 19. There's a number of items. It's basically just a section, and it's a standard document. So item 7 talks about the startup costs, and it should be very detailed. In our case, and it can be arranged because it could vary a little bit by geography. In our case, the cost is in the US. We're just talking about US. I know we have some international listeners, and we're focused also growing our international franchisee network, and we can talk about that separately. But in the US, it's in our case, the range is from $165,000 to $195,000. It's a fairly comprehensive number. That's the franchise purchasing the territory. It's all the equipment, chemicals, supplies, and training you need to get going. And then the third party costs. In our case, it's a van. We have an estimate for a van there. You mentioned, Beau, what's the setup in our place? We don't need an office. Most of our franchisees can work from home, but you do need a van and a small storage facility. So all these items are in there. We even have working capital for the first 3 months for the first one or two technicians, assuming no revenues coming in. So it's this 165 to $195,000 number. And we've had good success with our franchisees getting SBA financing. I think general, if you've got you as a prospective franchisee have a good credit score and you're aligned with a good franchise system that has a good track record, it's a good chance that you can get a significant amount of that money financed by the SBA.
Perfect. Let's dive into. I don't know if you got a chance to read the International IFA Economic 2025 Outlook for Franchising, but I'm pretty surprised. I'm going to go over some stats with you, David, just because I don't know if you got a chance to read this yet. Key national forecast for 2025 in the franchise space, and this is put out by IFA, International Franchise Association. Franchise output is projected to hit 936.4 billion, growing 4.4% over 2024. Next big stat, franchise establishments will increase by 2.5% to 851,402 units. Employment in franchising is forecasted to exceed 9 million, adding over 213,000 jobs. And franchise GDP will grow by 5%, outpacing the projected 1.9% growth of the broader U.S. economy. So what's interesting to me, David, is we're going into like a recession, but yet the experts in the space are saying franchises is going to grow. Why do you think franchises right now are growing the way they are? And why is so much private equity coming into the space as well?
Well, I think those two are related. Private equity is jumping into it because they see it's a good opportunity, not only to get involved in investing in franchisors like myself, but even the franchisees buying up a number of, or starting in some cases, the individual franchisees and growing from there. So I think they see that it's a nice opportunity. They started out doing that in restaurants years ago, restaurant franchises. Now they're getting more and more involved in service franchises, as an example, like ours. We don't have any private equity involved. I come from that background, so I know well. But they're definitely in the general space. But I think Beau, a lot of the reason that it's attractive to not only private equity, but the growth prospects look good is because more and more people see it's important to get involved in the benefits with a franchise system as opposed to doing it independently. There's just a lot of value in it, and the franchising has grown into more and more different types of businesses that in the past didn't seem to make sense to be franchised. Now, the question is, how do you find a good franchise? That's, there's a lot there to it, but I think a lot of it comes down to the culture of the franchisor, because you mentioned, Beau, that it's not a week-long process. It takes weeks to months to call it a dating process between the prospective franchisee, maybe people on this phone call or on this conversation now, and the franchisor. You want to try to make a good decision, and of course, we want to make a good decision too, because we're giving up, in our case, our brand for 20 years, locked up in a city that we will have given away an entire city to our franchisees. Generally, we're good with that, but occasionally we make bad mistakes, and it's not a great relationship for anyone. So we want to do a lot of dating also, but our franchisees, when they're looking at us, do it. And a lot of it is they start out by having conversation with the franchisor. They send you their documents, this franchise disclosure document that Beau mentioned. You go through it in detail. You can ask a franchise lawyer to take a read at it as well. But then important, there's a lot of information in there about the franchisor, how many new locations it opened, how many have closed, things like that, which will prompt a lot of questions. And then a key part of it is talking or meeting with other franchisees, with existing franchisees. And that's really important. And if to us, that's the most important part of the process. We're open book, I think, about everything, but certainly that process is we'll encourage our franchisee, anyone seriously looking at joining Renue, to talk to any and all of our franchisees, even ones that are no longer with us that may have sold or done something else. Because not only is it important to learn, uh, ask specific questions. Hey, are those franchisors, is David and his team, are they good people or not? But just to learn the day in the life, so that you can have a good sense as to here's what it is. Here's what we're going to be doing most of my days. You want to learn the good about being part of Renue, the bad about being part of Renue, and do you see yourself relating to the other franchisees? Are you similar to them? Do you kind of have similar backgrounds? Do you see yourself in that role? So that's a really key part of the process of this. It's called validating with other franchisees. And then another step would be, of course, meeting the franchisor, not just in a Zoom call like this, which is helpful, but we really do it face to face. They'll come to visit us for half a day. Sometimes we go visit them. We're very flexible on that, but that's an important part of the process. So there's a lot there to it in this document that you go through. But I think at the end of the day, you'll start to interact with the franchisor. And if you're not getting good vibes from them, if they're not being very transparent and letting you take your time going through the process, talking to a lot of the franchisees, asking a lot of questions of them and of the franchisor, then that's a big red flag. There'll be a lot in that document also, that franchise disclosure document, which is, a big document we can talk about. Maybe that's a separate topic as to how to look through one of those. But you'll get a lot of sense to looking at that and maybe talking to a franchise lawyer. But there's also the one last comment I'll make is there's a lot of people like Beau who actually can help guide you through the process, that really are on your side. They want to help you find a franchise that's a good fit for you and should introduce you to several different concepts based on what you're looking for. And then, you can start to choose from there, and they'll help you to tell you what to look out for and what not to look out for. I'm happy to have side conversations with any and all of you, even if you're not interested in Renue. Happy to give you my 2 cents as to going through this whole process, because I'm a big believer that you should look around. But there's a franchise. If you're interested in the business ownership, franchise is something you may want to strongly consider. And there's probably a franchise that meets your criteria regarding your month, how much money you have available, even with an SBA loan, what you like to do, your geography, and sort of your personal lifestyle.
I love it. Yeah, a lot of people, I talk to all people that are sometimes they're starting a business from scratch and they need funding for that. Sometimes they want to do a business acquisition. Some people are more open to franchise startups, but there's also franchise resales eventually. A franchise owner ready to retire and sell the business. So there's lots of opportunities, because somebody had put in a message, I want to buy a non-franchise. That's fine. You find a business that you resonate with. There's pros and cons to owning a mom and pop type of business. I can help you finance those. We are going to dive into financing business acquisitions. We do a lot of franchise resales. The one thing I will say is, I always tell people this: look at some franchises, even if you're fixed on a business acquisition, because it's going to open your mind. And quite honestly, you might find a business that makes a lot more sense. It's 150 to 190 grand to get into versus paying $500,000 or $800,000 for somebody else's sweat equity, like they built the business, right? Because it's not always peaches and gravy no matter what you do. Because if you're buying an existing business thinking you're going to get immediate cash flow, can you? Of course, if you find the right business. But a lot of times revenue dips when a new ownership team comes in. I think it's somewhere between 3 to 6% is what I was reading. Now, sometimes it bounces back, but so I'm not saying one way is better than the other, because it just to each his own. But what I do tell people is look at franchise systems. The one thing I've noticed is we're able to usually find a business a lot quicker. I had people that have been looking for business acquisitions for like 3 years. It's like they could have been in the game already, right? They could have had a business going. So Not to say one's better than the other, because I think everybody has their own path, but I think you should open your mind because, franchising is a great way to get into a business uh, that has systems, that has a proven business model, that is scalable. And once you build it, you can grow it into other markets. You can do acquisitions, you can do roll-ups, and it gives you the foundation. But do I help people buy existing businesses? I don't act as the business broker on that capacity because that's usually a localized business. But from the financing standpoint, yeah, we finance a lot of business acquisitions. I've got a gentleman right now. He's under 30 years old buying a $10 million business. Very, very possible. Obviously, he's got a good track record. He's got good financials. He's got a partner that's going to come in with about $700,000 because he has to come in with $1 million to close this deal. But yeah, we help everybody. I help, Reggie, who wanted to get out of being a W-2 employee and wanted to buy a painting company. And we got him into the painting company for 10% out of 10% cash in. It was a $120,000 investment, right? So it's like 12 grand to get in. So there's something for everybody. And then some people have a lot more capital. They can do bigger investments, or they can take, generally, when you look at any type of business, if you're doing a brick and mortar, you're going to have a slower repayment. You're not going to get a quick ROI versus home service and B2B businesses can usually ramp up quicker than a brick and mortar. It makes sense, right? Like restaurants, for example, might be 2 or 3 years to get you. I don't really put anybody in restaurants. I'm not into that industry. I do mostly B2B, MSP type business models, and home services seems to be the ones. Senior care, some space in senior care. But the point is there's a business model for everyone. And what we do as franchise consultants is we do an assessment called a Zoracle profile. I'm actually now starting to introduce Colby into the mix because understanding how you work and then matching you with a business model that would be best aligned for your skill sets, right? That's also important. So we don't want to put you into a business where you have to do business development if you're extremely introverted, because if you're going to go out, you have to be okay talking to people. It's not very salesy. Like if we look at Renue, for example, you don't need to be salesy. You need somebody that will actually be what I call the mayor of the town. They go out and they're okay meeting the general managers of these hotels and telling them, introducing themselves, right? You already have a relationship at corporate level, but you have to still go out and drive, right? Like you'll be more successful if you can drive in any type of business. I mean, once you give that feedback, David, like you got to be a driven person to build the relationships in any business model you're looking at.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, there's probably a few franchise systems out there where you don't have to be as sales oriented. But many of them, the more you are, the better. And most of our franchisees, don't really have a sales background. So there are many different types of sales. In our case, it's relationship based sales. It's not like you're going in and in 5 minutes you're gonna have an order and move on and at one time and sale. Ours is we should have a lot of repeat business. So it's getting to know the in our case, our customers and spending time with them, explaining what we do, building the rapport, showing that we're experts. We do. Our next step is also often we'll do a demonstration, showing them the quality of the work we do, and that goes a long way to us starting to doing some work for them. So yeah, it's always the more sales oriented you are, the better. I think in life, certainly in business ownership, but sales is very broad, and someone shouldn't have to worry that, hey, I'm not the slickest a person out there speaking. Maybe I'm not a good salesperson. There are many different aspects to sales, and if you find a good franchise system that's aligned with your personality, they'll coach you along how to go about this.
How much of your business is recurring business, David, in general? I mean, I know it's tough to say between every location.
Yeah, well, we get we get a lot of I'll call it a repetitive business. The amount can vary from year to year, but the hotels typically will want to have their entire property cleaned at least once a year, sometimes more than that. That would be the doing the carpeting in the hallways. We may be doing the tile and grout in their bathrooms. We may be doing the deep cleaning of their drapes. Then another time we can go back and bring a team to do the lobby. Maybe it's marble, maybe it's tile and grout. We'll do the furniture. Then some hotels, the bigger hotels, they have a lot of meeting space. We can do those a couple times a year. The carpets. Then we'll go. We can do some high dusting. We keep adding to our services. I haven't really gotten into them, but it's just a wide range of services that we do that the hotels typically can't do themselves because it's not an everyday. It's do it a few times a year. So if you don't do it a lot, you typically don't have the right equipment, chemicals, and supplies and training, nor are very quick at it. So our team is very good at that. So we typically get a lot of repeat work because this is the type of work, again, it's not 24/7, call you in the middle of the night, I got a flood, but it's more of, hey, I want to get these professionally done once or twice a year. So we get a lot of repeat work. Again, the amount can vary a little bit from year to year, depending on what, special projects and so forth. But we get a lot of repeat work. We don't lose customers too often.
Awesome. Well, I don't want to keep you all day. I know you got a busy schedule today and it's your Saturday. I appreciate you, David. And last thing here is what are some key markets you're looking for owners in right now?
Yeah.
Either,
Yeah.
domestically or internationally.
Sure. In the US, we've got 26 franchisees. We've got our 14 cities left. I'm not picking on any or not. Actually, where you are, Beau, Las Vegas is where we'd like to be. San Francisco, the Bay Area, Seattle, then Colorado, Salt Lake City are places we'd like to be. St. Louis, Minneapolis, and then South Carolina, Virginia, a few other places too. But that's a lot of it in the U.S. And then, as I mentioned, we're in 6 countries. So we're a couple in Europe, 2 in the Middle East. We'd like to be a little more in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, because we're in the United Arab Emirates. We're in Dubai. Like to be in Saudi Arabia and Asia, where we're in discussions. Some of the bigger locations there: Japan, South Korea, are places we'd like to be. Malaysia and Thailand. And a lot of the focus is on Western Europe. We're in Madrid and we're in Paris, and we'd like to be in a lot of the bigger cities, London, of course, but pretty much you name it, the bigger cities in Western and Central Europe. And we're very selective. I've left out a lot of countries, a lot of parts of the world. We want to go where our big customers are, the big branded hotels, and that's a lot of the criteria that we use as well.
Awesome. Well, guys, if you're interested, we're going to give you a link that you can set up a call with me, and then we'll get you introduced to David. David, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking an hour and breaking down the industry for us. And David's a great resource because another beautiful thing about you spend a lot of time talking with David, it's not a watered down thing. Like a lot of the franchises you get in and you talk to all these people, David's a wealth of information and you get to talk to him. Which is different than a lot of different business models where they have all these layers and you don't really you're getting information second and third hand. This is coming right from David. So I think there's a difference with his approach versus a lot of the other business models out there. So I appreciate you, David. Thanks so much.
Are you ready? It's time to get the tools, prompts, and guidance you need to scale your business. With my team of VAs, my calendar stays full with qualified appointments. Now I want to help you do the same. Hi, I'm Beau, and I've put together an exclusive ebook that will help you supercharge your productivity, scale your operation, and close more deals using virtual assistants and AI. Here are the key points you'll discover: productivity boost, scalable systems, and how to close more deals. In this free ebook, you'll discover proven strategies I've used in my own business. Strategies that have helped me go from doing it all myself to building a high-performing team that runs like a machine. Get your free copy now and unlock the secrets to growing your business faster than ever before. Please visit bizscalingplaybook.com.
Hey guys, Beau here. If you enjoyed what you saw, please subscribe to this channel. We talk all things financing. I've been in the lending industry for over 20 years, and I'm happy to answer your questions and provide great content.